If messing with historical art supplies makes you a little queasy, then, I don't know, stick around. But we all know Super Rae Dizzle, amazing channel. And we're all, I think, pretty enamored with her obsession with historical art supplies, her experiments, and just her general personality, right? Well, we actually share a love for historical art supplies because this might look familiar to you. A while ago on her channel, she shared this, one of the oldest coloring books she could find. And I was immediately enamored and picked this one up. Super Rae Dizzle didn't want to paint in hers, didn't want to color in hers, didn't want to do anything in hers. And yeah, that's not what's going to happen here. So mine is definitely not in as good of shape. And this is another reason I feel better about the fact, besides that, you know, the good one is being preserved by the artist who has much more self-control and is probably smarter. I'm about to get messy. I'm about to experiment. I'm about to see if this really old paper can hold up to my level of watercolor craziness. You with me? Let's do this. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at this thing. So first of all, can we just talk about the Rub-a-Dub-Dub 3 Men in a Tub? And yeah. Now this dude's looking pretty sad. I'm not, is that an axe? And this looks like, I don't know. The illustrations, friends, are part of the entertainment. Let me just tell you. I mentioned that mine is definitely in rough shape. The binding here is almost like Dunzo. Yeah, you can see here. And this is fabric, which is a good thing because that's this little bit is holding on for dear life otherwise. And you can really see the extent of the damage in here. Again, another reason I am not feeling too guilty about painting in this bad boy. Mine has some just lovely little, barely readable notes or inscriptions. I'm not even sure which. This is one of my favorite pages in the entire book. It's not been colored on. I will not touch it. There's something about this super soft imprint, obviously probably faded over time. The orange, the blue, the patina on the page. I don't know if that's the right word, but everything about this page makes me so happy. So yeah, instructions, of course. So you'll start to see the little artist who had this just went to town. I'm flipping through and I'm like, is there anything left for Christy? And yeah, not much. So these were the pages that were kind of done for you. And then you would, the intent was for you to copy. And I'll tell you what, I would love to know the person behind this book. They started drawing. I love this idea with the inspiration page that you can color and then the page that you can then re-sketch. So sweet. And look, yeah. I just so badly, as I've been flipping through these pages again and again and again, I'm like, I want to meet you. You're probably not still with us. Again, my girl math is failing me, but this person is just entered my heart and my soul because I just feel the love for art just jumping from the page. I mean, yeah. Love. I probably shouldn't even be flipping through it this way. I know I'm probably giving so many cringe-worthy moments right now for you. Let me show you, friends, the page that I've decided to paint. This one right here. Not really sure what's going on here. Something had a little snack. So these last few pages were much more detailed in just the approach, the linear kind of detail, but they still look like it's almost like the book advanced in kind of the artwork style and the fine detail as the book went on, which I think is just lovely. But this is the piece that I'm going to have at for this adventure. Okay, so I do have a plan of attack. Let me explain. I'm going to have a piece of paper towel right behind. Actually, let's do two. In case things start to go right through very quickly, and that'll soak up, hopefully from the backside, and then prevent anything from getting onto this beautiful page as well. I'm going to be using less water than I normally would, but I also want to get that like watercolor flow, so we shall see. I'm going to be using more opaque paint formulation. So my Art for Joy's Sake palette for sure. And then I might bring in some bleed proof white. We'll see, which is more of like a gouache consistency. I had thought about bringing in a watercolor ground, but you know what? It's such a heavy bodied medium. I just think it's going to tear up the material here. So I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. All right, let's get into it. Another thing that I think is going to be really important to get a quality result, fingers crossed, is not a lot of pressure. I need to be very, very, very careful of the pressure that I'm using. Because if you noticed, there wasn't a lot of painting going on in this book. I don't even know if I saw any painting going on. It was all about coloring. So I don't have any indication of how this paper, here we go, is going to react to watercolor. All right. First things first, that feels good. I've actually worked on watercolor papers that at this stage with this little water are already feeling like they may start to break down under my brush, and I'm not getting that feeling here. I'm definitely, I didn't wet the page first. I'm already adding a second layer here, and I'm not feeling anything scary. Let's do a little more water, just a little more. All right, little more. That's spreading nice and easily. Hopefully you can see that. And then now I imagine this paper is going to dry quickly and not give me that watercolor flow that I would hope for. All right, let's take a pause. I want to take a pause. Oh, it's not going through to the backside yet. So I have a good idea, at least at this stage, what it's going to tolerate. So I'm going to go ahead right in, and into the wet areas that are still wet, I'm going to add a little bit of purple mixed in with my red. And there is also a touch of brown just to get some quick, before everything starts to go haywire, shadows in there, and then blendy blend with a little bit of just clean water on my brush. You know what, friends? I got to tell you, this is not as crazy town haywire as I thought it was going to be so far. All right. I'm going to just keep playing in here. Let me look close. The paper, friends, the paper is standing up to this. I cannot believe it. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix a little bit more of my dark purple and brown together and kind of get in here, maybe even a little blue, and get in here right under the roof. What is that? The eave or the, I don't know, whatever. You see where I'm at. And get some good, strong darkness in there. Now, this paper, of course, is dulling the colors as they dry. They're really losing their intensity. That is not shocking because it's basically a colored ground that I'm working on, a colorful ground. I wonder what the color of these pages were originally. So I'm going to lay down some red, and then I'm going to test the water, so to speak here. I'm just going to dampen my brush, not rinse totally, and then blend out. Go back here, blend out. Let's test some lifting. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, my red in my palette definitely stained, so that's not a shocker, friends. I gotta tell you, I'm feeling crazily lovely pastorally here. I'm feeling very watercolor pastoralness, and I'm proud of myself because, I didn't have to draw this, so, I kind of, have the best of both worlds here. Very impressed with this paper. My parents always used to laugh because they were gifted a microwave in like the mid 80s, which I think at that point, microwaves were like the new coolest thing, right? It was sometime in the 80s. And they had that thing. They had that daggone thing until I was like in college, all right? Which was like 1996. It lasted over like 10 years. And actually, I'm trying to think, they may still have that thing when I got married. Okay, so, and that was 2000. The reason I'm telling you this ridiculous story is because that old adage, they just don't make things like they used to, is very evident here. It is very evident with my parents' big old microwave. And let me tell you what, I am blown away at this paper. In all seriousness, I did not have high hopes for this paper. As a matter of fact, I was thinking that I was going to get a stern talking to via email from a bunch of y'all out there. And maybe I still will, but here's the thing. This paper held up shockingly well. Now you can see as I'm progressing with the painting that, definitely wasn't designed necessarily for watercolor, or at least not adults painting watercolor. Because kids would have used it with watercolor. It's a painting book. And oh my gosh, I'm just rambling. But if you kept the paper kind of damp, worked quickly, you could get some decent washes. Now, I know that the paper color is not probably what it was originally. It kind of got toned over time. But let me tell you what, historical coloring book aside, get yourself some toned paper and work on it because it just feels good. I don't know. It makes me feel kind of classy. I don't know, like a little throwback to a lithograph. And I don't know what I'm saying, but I think you know what I mean. Bringing in some more opaque moments really helped out when I felt like I wanted to get a little bit more detailed. Because if I had to use more water or really heavy watercolor mixes, I don't think the paper would have liked that as much. But with gouache or even a little bit of the acrylic that I used, and it kind of sat on top of the paper more than I think watercolor would, it really worked out nicely. This paper definitely felt like a smoother construction paper. So again, just floored at how well it performed. I mentioned earlier that this book was so well loved, so beautifully used. And I now feel like I'm a little teeny tiny silly part of that beautiful legacy in this book. And she now sits up on my wall, and I get to look at her every day and remember this kind of connection through time. Okay, I just had my Virginia Woolf moment. I digress. I do that often.